If parenting feels harder than it looks online, and if your child's behavior leaves you discouraged or confused, I want you to know you are not failing. Most children do well when they can. When they can, it's rarely because they don't care, but because something in their brain or body isn't ready yet. We live in a culture that talks a lot about behavior, but very little about development. A lot about obedience, but not about nervous systems. A lot about discipline, but not about skills. So today, I want to share 5 things kids genuinely need before they can behave better. My hope is that it brings relief, understanding, and language for what you're seeing at home. Let's begin. Thing number 1, skills and not threats. Here's something many parents are never told. What we call misbehavior is often a missing skill. Impulse control, sharing, turn-taking, frustration tolerance, flexible thinking, and using words instead of hands are not moral qualities. They are neurological abilities that develop slowly over time. The part of the brain responsible for self-control is still under construction well into young adulthood. So expecting a young child to have perfect self-control is like asking an unfinished brain to do a finished job. Threats might stop behavior in the moment, but they don't build skill. Training builds skill. And biblically, when we talk about training up a child, training assumes development, patience, and repetition. So instead of asking, how do I make them stop? A better question is, what skill is missing? And how do I teach it? Thing number 2, regulation, not shame. We often assume kids misbehave because they won't listen. But research shows many behaviors happen because they actually can't listen in that very moment. When a child is overwhelmed, overstimulated, tired, hungry, or anxious, the survival part of the brain takes over and the thinking part goes offline. In that case, children don't need lectures, they need regulation. Shame might make the behavior stop temporarily, but it doesn't build long-term capacity. God leads us toward change through kindness, not humiliation. Romans 2:4 reminds us of that. Children learn self-control when they feel safe enough to reflect, not when they feel too ashamed to try. So when a child is dysregulated, the first step isn't How do I correct this? But how do I help their body settle? Thing number 3, connection before correction. Connection is not permissive. It's what makes correction actually work. Children are wired to follow those who feel safe with. They cooperate when they feel seen and resist when they feel threatened. Connection can sound like, "I'm right here," or "I hear you," or "You're overwhelmed, not bad." When Jesus interacted with people, he saw the person before the behavior. It was relationship first and guidance second. When we connect before we correct, the heart opens, the nervous system settles, and the brain becomes teachable. Connection creates the conditions for change. Trying to correct a child who feels disconnected is like trying to download a file without a Wi-Fi signal. Thing number 4, co-regulation before self-regulation. We want children to calm themselves, use their words, and handle big feelings. But self-regulation is not the starting point. It's the destination. Children learn to regulate by borrowing an adult's calm first. This is called co-regulation. It can sound like, "I'm here, sweetheart," or "You're safe here," or "Breathe with me," or "I won't leave you alone in this." Over time, co-regulation becomes self-regulation. Spiritually, God does the same with us. He meets us in distress, comforts first, and guides second. Psalm 34:18 says, "He is near to the brokenhearted." A dysregulated child doesn't need a louder adult. They need a regulated one. Thing number 5, developmentally realistic expectations. Behavior often lives in the gap between what a child can do and what we can expect them to do. We expect toddlers to share, even though true sharing develops closer to ages 4 to 7. We expect long attention spans, even though short bursts are normal. We expect impulse control, even though the brain is still developing it into the mid-20s. When expectations exceed development, everyone suffers. But when expectations match development, behavior often improves without force. 1 Corinthians 13 describes love as patient. patience isn't passive, it's perspective. It sees what's still growing. Sometimes the problem isn't the child, it's really the expectation. So here's what I want you to remember. Children behave better when they feel better. And they feel better when they have skills, regulation, connection, co-regulation, and developmentally realistic expectations. Behavior is not a verdict on a child's character or a parent's worth. It's a reflection of development, capacity, and nervous systems in progress. If your child is struggling, it doesn't mean you're failing. It means they're still learning like us, still growing like us, and still becoming. God entrusted that becoming to us, not because we're perfect, but because we're present. If this helped you see your child differently, you're not alone. And you're exactly the kind of parent I make these videos for. I'll see you in the next reflection.